What's going on, lads and lassies? It's Ocean from the South Stand, back again with another video, and club football is back. I've got to say, as a Scottish person, I thoroughly enjoyed this international break. For once in my lifetime, I can say we're going to the World Cup, although I'm not too sure how many of you will care about that one. Before we do get into today's video though, I do want to just let you guys know that we've dropped a new series of shirts over on the South Stand. We've got 10 new t-shirts to choose from, some of which include these that I'm going to put on screen just now. So far, people are loving Bart's Blackboard and they're loving Dan Ballard's one where he's head in the punch bag. So go and check them out at southstandclothing.com. We've got 20% off for the rest of November. You can get 20% off any items, no matter if it's your first order, if it's your second order, your third, who cares? 20% off for an early Black Friday treat, and that one lasts until the end of the month. Let's get right into things. So, guys, we're back in London this week, away to Fulham, in a game that honestly I've just been looking forward to since the last game we played. That game against Arsenal, the high off that game lasted for a while, and that's coming off the back of obviously that 2-2 draw. Coming away to Fulham this weekend, I feel like it's one of those ones. We'll get into all the context and everything of what I think of this game, but for me right now, I think it absolutely stinks of that Forest game that we went to, where we needed a little pick-me-up. We went there, we got the points, and I don't know, for me it feels like that. We'll get into a little bit of pre-match stats, set the context, what are we looking at in this game against Fulham. So, of course, coming into this weekend, Sunderland still remain in 4th position. I honestly can make a 20-minute video where I just repeat the words Sunderland are 4th in the Prem because it genuinely just makes me so happy. But yeah, Sunderland 4th in the Prem and Fulham 15th. Now, Fulham's struggles a lot of the time seem to have come away from home. They've been alright at home. They're managing to get points. One of the last games at home only coming to a 1-0 draw, a 1-0 loss against Arsenal, which, let's face it, for most teams this season is nothing really to worry about. But I think the real problem with this Fulham side, first of all, they've been incredibly unlucky. I can't remember exactly who I watched, but there was a video, a study, it might have been me reading something, where it basically came to the conclusion that Fulham had been the unluckiest team in the Premier League this season in terms of calls going against them that haven't been against other teams, penalties given that have the PGMOL have apologised for later on. I think we've seen that really kick off in that Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge towards the beginning of the season. But coming to this one, they are on the back of only winning one in the last 5 games, and the rest of those 4 games being losses as well. So they're not even really able to find the point in times where they're struggling to take all 3. For Sunderland, the picture is, of course, looking a little bit brighter, with 2 wins, 2 draws and 1 loss coming to Sunderland in the last 5 games. And really, in that kind of period of time, we have managed to get some impressive results. Of course, taking that point off Arsenal, taking 3 points off of Chelsea. We're managing to pick up points as we go this season. And really, it comes off the back of having a little bit of disruption in terms of that initial injury to Habib Diarra. In terms of losing Ronaldo to suspension for a few weeks, we have had to kind of deal with these little bits of adversity through the way. So I'm glad to say that Sunderland are still managing to find their way no matter what. Coming in this game, a big part of Fulham's problem is just the fact that they're feeling a little bit toothless in front of goal. We're talking about a team that's only on average scoring 1.1 goals per game, but they're conceding 1.5, which is a big problem. And when you look into it with Fulham, they've actually had 6 big errors leading to a shot this season, 3 of which turned out to be a goal. So it isn't just all by chance that teams are able to get past them. They are causing slight mistakes at the back that are giving away these opportunities. And in 11 games, they've managed to give away 3 penalties, 2 of which have been converted. Obviously, it was just Bruno Fernandes that missed that other one. So we're talking about a team that is somewhat struggling this season under Marco Silva, which was a little bit, I don't know, for me it was a little bit surprising coming into this season, because I watched a lot of Fulham last season and they felt like the next team that was going to be battling for Europe. You know, we've always got those teams that seem to take it in rotation. We had Forest, you know, the likes of Brighton, Bournemouth are probably going to be in the European spots this season, but we seem to have this kind of rotation of Premier League clubs that are able to battle it out for Conference and Europa League spots. And really, for me, I felt like Fulham was probably going to be the next one up on that list. That was, of course, before the summer, and after the summer, things seemed to feel a little bit stale at Fulham, really only bringing in, I think, 2 players at the end of the transfer deadline. So Yeah, things seem to, I don't know, came to somewhat of a halt with Marco Silva. I think there seems to be some sort of frustration between Marco Silva and the board. I don't really think he feels like he's been backed particularly well. And I don't know, you can sort of feel it with this squad. They're able to pick up some points, of course, having 11 points this season so far. But it's just, yeah, there's something not quite clicking for Fulham at the minute. And as I said, they're not really able to create a hell of a lot of chances in each game to try and score goals. We're looking at a team that's only really able to create 1.5 big chances per game. And we're coming up against a Sunderland team who really their whole identity right now is built around being defensively pretty stable, really allowing their opponents possession and allowing their opponents to have a chance at a goal, but just backing themselves to keep it out, backing themselves to be able to defend you around their own box well enough that you're not actually able to create these chances, even if you have a hell of a lot of possession. So when I look at this one for this Fulham team, that is one of my main concerns, is the fact that for a team that they can have the ball, like Sunderland will go to Fulham this weekend and let them have the ball. And for me, I've come somewhat became content in that. I kind of feel somewhat at ease. I'm always going to have a little bit of nervousness when we kind of give up the ball like that, but we are quite happy, especially on the road, to sit men behind the ball, let you come to us and let you create that space in behind your back line for us to then go and exploit. And yeah, as I said, this Fulham team, I think if I was looking at it from a Fulham perspective, I would be concerned about that lack of like clinical edge surrounding it, because I think Sunderland will hopefully be able to back themselves well in that instance. One of the biggest things for Fulham as well, they're actually only winning 42% of their aerial duels as a team. And really, when you're looking at the aerial duels and ground duels, both of those stats are sitting 50% or below. For Sunderland, it's actually the opposite. So we'll get into Sunderland and how we're looking. Coming into this one, Romain Mundo was earmarked to be sort of back for this game, but we've seen him play for the under-21s this week, and it won't be involved in the team at all come the weekend. Omar Alderete, I think Regis was looking to hopefully get him some minutes with his international squad, but of course he got red carded on the bench for getting in that fight, so never quite happened that way. So I think there will be some questions surrounding Sunderland's starting lineup. We've obviously had the discussions for a while between the back four, back five idea. Now, for me, coming into it, I'm someone who looks at Sunderland. I do prefer us to set up with a back four and give ourselves those more natural attacking options. However, so many of our best players this season are our defenders, and none of our defenders are truly limited to being just defenders. They're able to get up and they're able to make an impact further up the field as well. So when it comes to Sunderland, when I look at us and I look at the kind of period of fixtures we're going to go into in December and in January, during that AFCON period, during the times we play Liverpool twice, during the times we play Man City twice within the space of 4 weeks, we play Liverpool away, we play the Mags at home. We've got a lot of tough fixtures coming up. I mean, I look at the players that are probably going to be left over from that AFCON departing squad. Majority of the best players we have there are our defenders, and I can see Regis sticking with this back five throughout this kind of tough Christmas period. So with that in mind, it does make me think he's probably going to lean towards sticking with that back five, given that we're on the road, given that we're all obviously down to Fulham, who by this point, even if they are struggling this season, should be a well-respected, established Premier League side at this point. Like, as I said, I thought they were going to be a team that were much further ahead and challenging for Europe this season. I can just see Regis sticking with this back five because it's going to be something we probably stick with over Christmas, etc. anyway. So as much as I would like to see a back four for Sunderland, I don't think, given the injury to Habib Diarra, given the kind of place we're at right now with some of the attacking options, I don't know if that's going to be our best option going for a four. I think Regis will stick with the five, and I've got to say I'm probably all right with that at this point. Like, I don't mind it either way. Someone who probably naturally prefers the back four, but with this squad, the players, how they're doing, the fact that they're not limited in just defending, they're still able to get up. And in fact, someone like Dan Ballard is often pushing alongside Wilson Isidore as that sort of outlet for Sunderland. So we're able to push those players up, your Ballards and Kelly's, you're able to push them up and really then be the option for Sunderland to win those aerial duels. So far this season, we've actually won 52.5% of our aerial duels. All of Sunderland's geometrics, whether it be ground duels at 53.6 or aerial duels at over 50%, we are sitting above 50% for them. I think with Sunderland, the game is going to look like us sitting back, not too defensively. Like when I say we're going to sit back in a bit of a low block, with Sunderland, it is more of this kind of mid block until you put the pressure on. If more of this mid block, sit in a kind of banks of 4 and 5, take the pressure on from Fulham, allow them to create that space, and then get the ball up quick and fast. We don't mind playing the high ball across the top, nice and direct, because the likes of Dan Ballard, Mukiele, they're going to be up there winning the first ball. And in the times they don't win the first ball, Sunderland are so often the ones to win the second ball, and it gets us up the field so quickly. It's such a massive part of Reduce's plans. If we're not playing through these little tidy triangles in the wide spaces, our most effective way to go about it is direct. And in fact, when you look at the goal for Ballard against Arsenal, even though it was from a set piece instance, the fact that the ball went up, Mukiele wins the first ball, puts it down to Ballard, who's the next man to win it. Like, Sunderland aren't limited in their attacking options with this team if they have a back five. And so far this season, as we've discussed, we've managed to actually create 1.5 goals per game, and most importantly, only conceding 0.9. We have been really, really tough to beat. Really tough to beat. And although we don't create a hell of a lot of chances, again, we're only just touching just past Fulham in terms of big chances created in 1.7. Granit Xhaka leads the Premier League charts in terms of big chances created. We're clinical from them. We don't often need a hell of a lot of chances to still get a goal. When you compare that with the fact that Fulham aren't incredible when it comes to winning their aerial duels, I can see this being the type of game where Sunderland take the lead through a set piece with your Mukieles, with your Ballards, and then we're probably able to ride out a 1-0 win. For me, this feels like the Forest game. I don't know about anyone else. It just, you know, that way that Forest were kind of desperate for their first win. Fulham are kind of looking to get back on track with their looking to get back on track in terms of form. I think it's just one of those ones where we're going to sustain a lot of pressure, like the Forest game. Nottingham Forest were not without chance in that game. They put the ball in the box so many times. They got their chances, and I think we'll see something similar from Fulham. Although things seem to have went a little bit stale, there's plenty of quality throughout that squad, and you've still got the likes of Josh King, the kind of youngster on the scene, who's able to get them up quickly, who's really, to me, impressing me, especially for his age. When you look at these young players, we've obviously got our own sort of Josh King and Chris Rigg, who, funny enough, scored that FA Cup goal. But yeah, we look at this one, and I can see it being the type of game where we do sustain a lot of pressure from Fulham, but I just don't think they'll be able to convert those chances. And then from there, Sunderland are able to get a goal. For me, it's a 1-0 win. I'm hoping, obviously, it is a 1-0 win. I'd absolutely take the point in Fulham, but I just look at the fixture list coming up, and you want to sustain that kind of cushion that we've got between us and the relegation zone. Although at this point in time, we're flying high, you know, we're looking forward, we're talking. We hear Kyril Louis-Dreyfus talk about the prospect of getting a top 10 finish, and I back our lads and I back our squad and reducing all that to go out and try and get that. But I'm still at this point in the table with 19 points, still wanting to sustain that cushion behind us, because we've obviously seen managerial changes down the bottom. You get the likes of Newcastle, who, let's face it, aren't likely to stay down there for long. I just want to make sure we sustain that little bit of a cushion just for our own comfort going into this real tough period. Although I don't think it's a tough period where Sunderland are going to lose every single game. For me, it's not like that. I think we'll take some points from it, like we've taken points in the big games this year. I just don't think we're going to be able to keep up the pace and rate of wins that we've been getting. So yeah, I think I look at this period coming up and I just say, from this game with Fulham and Bournemouth next week, both really, really good teams, but both teams that, out of the upcoming fixtures, have to be ones that you kind of target more than others. I would love for us to get 4 points in these next two fixtures, a win and a draw, no matter kind of what way they come around, before going into that Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle sort of time. Yeah, I look at this and say, right, go out, try and get the points on the board before AFCON, and I can just see it being that real kind of dogged fight. The one thing I don't want to see is, when we started that game against Everton, I don't think we respected Everton enough, and I think because of the good kind of run of form we've been in, because we just beat Chelsea, I think we came into that game and weren't switched on from the start. I don't know if it was a little bit of kind of, I don't want to call it arrogance because I don't believe any of these players are arrogant, but I don't know if they kind of overlooked that Everton would come at them with a challenge. I don't want to see us overlook Fulham because they're just, it's not this dead and gone team. Like, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I think Fulham have got a punch to pack, and I just want to make sure we go out there and like in the Arsenal game, because we've seen it in the Arsenal game, we've seen it in the Chelsea game, how when Sunderland want to show up and they want to be intense and they want to be kind of pressing, like really going for it with all they've got. I don't want to see us not come out with that at Fulham because they think it's just Fulham, because it's not just Fulham. They're a good team. So yeah, I hope that all made sense. I kind of felt like I rambled on a little bit there, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be a 1-0 win. That'll be my prediction. Maybe, if anything, it might be one of those ones where we're able to get a second really late on when the kind of finishers come on, and your Talbys and your Brobies. I don't know. I just think it's one of those games where it's going to be a lot of Fulham and then the Sunderland goal, even though there won't be a hell of a lot of the Sunderland. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been good to be back. It's been good to be back in full health. I honestly hated those couple of weeks when I wasn't really making videos. Really enjoyed it this season so far, getting on here, talking about football, talking about Sunderland, making these videos. And yeah, just loving the Premier League season so far. I'm glad that there's no international breaks until February, or is it February? I think it's February. I'm really glad Scotland qualified for the World Cup. But most importantly, I'm glad about that new South Stand launch, so go and check out the southstandclothing.com. If you've enjoyed this one, please feel free to like the video, comment down below what you're thinking in terms of team selection. Oh, I think I completely forgot to do the team selection, didn't I? I'm pretty sure I have. Now, I'm going to go for the team that we started with against Man City. I think it's the most likely option because many of those players will play after AFCON. It'd be fun to get Chrissy Rigg a little appearance just because of that whole Fulham FA Cup thing. But yeah, I forgot to mention that in the rest of the video. My team is probably going to be the same team in terms of what we played against Arsenal. I think as much as I want to see Talby on the field, I just don't think Regis is ready to start with him. I think he likes him coming on and how impactful he's been when he comes on. And I think the same goes for Broby. I've been loving Broby when he comes on. I just don't know how effective he'd be doing that for the whole 90 minutes. I think whatever Regis does, I'm going to go for. I think those positions are sort of interchangeable in terms of Traore and Talby and Broby and Wilson. Other than that, I think the team will probably stay much the same. That, I think, is going to be the majority of the team we see before, during, around AFCON. Anyway, guys, as I was saying, go and check out that new South Stand Clothing drop. Like the video, comment down below what you think the score outcome is going to be for this weekend. How many points do you think we can get before AFCON? That's an interesting one to go and discuss. And I'll see you guys in the next one.